Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Sean and Sophia show. That's our temporary name for now. And we're so excited to be with you guys again. We love doing this. It's our fifth episode. And today I am interviewing Sean, and he's going to be talking about the fear of disapproval, AKA fear of rejection. Everybody's scared of this. Am I right, Sean?
Yes, I think it's a global epidemic.
Yes. So first is, what is making this really alive for you, this particular topic this week? Why did you want to talk about this?
Yeah, well, risking disapproval for me, it's like I think I have a tendency to be a pleaser, and I think I've seen a lot of others have a tendency to be a pleaser, and a lot of the men I work with, they don't even know that their boundaries are being pressed. We don't really, not really that good at that because we just don't have a sense of where our boundaries need to be. And I know for me, I've often hid myself because I was afraid to let myself be fully seen and rejected. There was a sense of like, if I'm quiet and small enough, or if I just say what they want to hear, then they'll like me, and if people like me, then great, I'm in the club. But then I'm not really being seen, and I don't really feel fully alive. And so I've seen this with a lot of my clients, and it's true for myself as well.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but it is so lonely. Even when you're in a group of people who you think are your tribe, it feels so lonely to be a pleaser and to have that fear of rejection and not to really fully show up as yourself, whatever that may be in the moment.
Yeah.
And, that's been a big theme of my life. It's been a big theme of so many women that I talk to, is this sense of not belonging.
Yeah.
And isn't that connected to like that fear? It's wanting to belong, but then repelling that belonging by being so small.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like one of the ways I've been describing it is the thing that I want the most is the thing that scares me the most. And that thing is to be fully loved and accepted. And I think every human on the planet, we just really want to be fully loved and accepted for who we are, but we're so afraid that we won't be, that so we hide ourselves, and how can anybody fully love and accept us if we won't show ourselves? So like you talking about how lonely that is really rings true for me. It's like, I know that sense of loneliness and longing for something that I'm so deathly afraid of actually doing, and how powerful it is when we show up fully and we are received in a good way, and we allow ourselves to fully open up and be met by others in a good way.
That is so beautiful. But I want to look at the shadow of that, which is rejection. And I also want us to talk about reclaiming that word and putting a positive spin on it, because it doesn't have to be negative. But I mean, the honest truth is people don't do these things or face their fear, both men and women, in different ways because they don't want to be rejected. So let's talk about being rejected, that the experience of being rejected and what that actually means to the men that you work with, for example.
Yeah. Well, rejection in and of itself is a challenge. And I think what's interesting is like, it's kind of a paradox. We act a certain way, or I'm going to generalize this. Oftentimes what happens is people act a certain way because they want to be accepted, right? They want to be loved. So they put on this show, or they show up in a certain way that they feel is going to be accepted and loved. And then they get that acceptance and love, and yet something still feels empty. And I think the reason that is because what others are loving or accepting of them is not them. And it's kind of similar to, like the pickup scene and things like that, where it's like, you're going to put on this show for this person, but at the end of the day, they don't really know who you are. You're not really sharing yourself fully. And it makes sense, because if you bury yourself fully out into the world and then you're rejected, it has a lot more impact. But what I've noticed is, like, when I'm feeling more solid in myself, that fear of rejection is highly diminished. Like I can show up and I won't be as impacted by what another person thinks of me, because I'm feeling strong and I'm feeling grounded and I'm feeling empowered in myself.
Yes.
And it's okay if they don't resonate with me. It's okay. Yes. And I think that's probably a big piece of it, is like, if I'm showing up fully and I'm really letting myself shine, that means that I'm going to equally attract and repel people at the same time.
Yes. Hallelujah. Amen. All right.
Right.
Guys, like that's the really important piece.
Mm-hmm.
Two things that you just said, Sean, is really, really important. One is that when you develop the confidence and validation for yourself, of yourself, the need for outside validation diminishes, and therefore the effect that so-called rejection has on you also diminishes, right? So it's coming from within you. The second thing is that when you're showing up, you have to expect that you're going to get both the praise and the criticism. But once you get to that point of being really visible, whatever that means to you, you also have to practice the detaching from whatever it means, whatever rejection feels like, or what it used to feel like or be, whether it's somebody saying no to you, or you're not getting the person that you want to be with, or the opportunity that you want. How do you flip rejection on its head? Like, what are some things that you that's really helpful to the men that you work with?
Well, there's a couple things that come up. And one of the things I want to speak to you for a moment is like, I just had a flash of the 4 agreements, and one of the agreements being don't take anything personally. And it's really interesting that we talk about rejection and judgment is both positive and negative. Like we can have negative judgments and we don't really like those. But if somebody has a positive judgment for us, we really like those. We're like, go ahead and tell me more about how awesome I am. That's great. But it's also, it's still judgment, you know?
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if you hold to that agreement, don't take anything personally, because they're coming through their lens. You know, they're all judgments, be it positive or negative, are coming through their own world and their own lens and how they see you, which could be a total projection, which oftentimes most things are projecting out onto the world what we either like or dislike. And and that piece alone is just like a very like taking your power back from giving it to other people to let it feed you. It's more like, I'm sure of myself, and I know that if you're judging me, you're throwing your shit onto me, and that's okay. That's how we do it. But I can own that. I don't have to let that impact me in such a negative way. So that's, I feel like that's a big one in terms of just like feeling more empowered within yourself.
Sean, that is so huge. You just blew my mind. That is so amazing, because the whole not taking it personally has been, in my mind, just applied to, you know, if somebody is in their wounding and their victimhood and their shit, don't take it personally. But you just saying, don't even take the praise personally. Oh, that feels so like juicy and expansive in my body right now. I'm not even kidding. Like, holy shit, because like how much, like, of course I want a man telling me how gorgeous I am and how smart I am and all that stuff. But then I'm getting addicted to that, right? And then when he's, you know, gives me criticism or feedback, I'm like, no, let's get back to the praise, you know, let's get back to you elevating me to goddess. But, you know, but not taking it personally, even when the, you know, a man is, I hope you're listening, ladies, this is huge. You know, if a man is saying beautiful things to you, you receive it, because that's a huge part of, like, you receive because it's somebody really seeing you, but then you move on. Like, you don't base your entire relationship on that, which I think is controversial considering the love languages. And like, I'm a big person with, I need the physical touch and I need the words of affirmation, right? But that's really huge. It's like, yeah, I know that I am awesome and I'm worthy just because I exist. Like, not because you're my man and you're telling me, which is makes me think about how men put women on pedestals and women put men on pedestals. And this whole, like, don't take it personally just crumbles that entire thing. And it's so important. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I'm also reminded of, like, in the times when we're receiving negative, projections and negative judgments, one of the practices that I was taught and that I share with my men is around, like, creating a shield, having some kind of shield that you, like, intentionally create and you can intentionally enact, but the shield is not 100% impermeable. The idea is that if something is true for you, it gets in and it lands for you and you can learn from it. So it's like, yes, some of those judgments are just projections, and often those people are seeing a reflection of themselves in you, but there is also some percentage of that lands true, both positive and negative, and you can allow that to come in and speak to something either you need to learn or can reaffirm some truth about yourself where you can feel more empowered, because I think that the reflection of another, that's a really powerful practice. It's like we can do a lot of work on our own and in our, and I did for years, like single and just like doing my own inner work. And then I was like, oh, okay, I've got all this, work done. And then I get into a relationship. It's like, holy shit. I was basically just prepping for that work, because having that mirror right there all the time is really, really powerful. And it makes you do a lot more work, both in enjoying the shadow and, climbing into the gold, hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully, if you're not, like, so deeply buried in your wounding and shit that you can see that. And again, thank you for speaking to the fact that we have to do our own work every day and by ourselves. And I know that I've read a lot of, about how men need to be alone in order to really see themselves. And I believe that women do too. The sisterhood is really important, but I believe that women need to also be alone and be able to tolerate and sit with the discomfort of being alone with thoughts, feelings, everything, vision questing and all that stuff, just men.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. And one of the biggest challenges of that is that quiet space and, like, what comes up or how intense or how uncomfortable it can be in those spaces. And so a lot of times what I do with my guys is I give them practices. I give them specific tools that they can use in those quiet times to actually be really intentional with it. Because especially now, it's really easy to be like, I'm going to have alone time and then get on Facebook for 2 hours. So it's like intentionally creating, intentionally creating practices that allow us to back out of, all the digital connections. But I'm not just sitting there like, what do I do now? It's like, no, here's this framework and structure for you to explore what that is inside of you, and then learn to express it, learn to actually, like, tap into what the experience is on the inside, and then share that with another person in a really clean way. And it's just like that practice evolves over time. And if two partners are practicing that on their own, when they come together, they can practice it in an even deeper way. And you can create such a beautiful relationship and a beautiful opportunity for growth and love and presence.
Yes. Unplugging, huge. I learned from my teacher, intentional checkouts. Where no phone, no computer, even if you're in your house or you're in the forest or whatever, that you're not connected to any kind of technology. Oh man, there was something you just said and I totally spaced. Oh, I was thinking about, like, some practices that come up for me for women are, like, for example, my morning routine. Every morning I sit in stillness every single day through meditation, affirmations, visualization, writing, reading. I'm supposed to be exercising, not really doing that, but whatever, that'll happen later. And the stillness, I cannot emphasize how amazing the stillness is. Yeah. That's when so much comes up, ideas and inspiration, and, like, I really get to ask myself questions and receive answers from Source and God. That's been a really big thing for me. And then another practice, in addition to, not as a substitute, in addition to stillness, is is dance. I tell women, go explore, because you will know all your fears, all your demons, all your shadows when you are dancing. And I specifically prescribe partner dancing.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Not just ecstatic dancing where you can be off in the corner, not talk to or look at anyone, but partner dancing close. I can write a whole book about it. It's so juicy.
Maybe you should. That sounds like it. That does sound juicy.
An animated book, like a comic book or something. That sounds really fun.
Yeah.
So something that came up for me months ago when I was talking to another men's coach, actually, was he said that men show vulnerability differently than women. And that really opened up something for me, where it was like, oh, maybe I'm looking for something. And I know a lot of women look for something like, oh, this man is not emotionally available, blah, 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 like that kind of language. And it's like, maybe we're just not seeing what it is that a man is trying to express. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
Well, I'm not sure on that specific thing, but the thing that comes up for me when I hear what you were talking about is a story that I've heard time and time again from men that I work with, specifically slightly more mature men, is that they have always heard from women that they show us your vulnerability, show us your emotion, show us all that, and then they do, and because the woman hasn't ever experienced that before, she actually doesn't know what to do with it, and it's just like
this is a true story.
Yeah,
this is a true story. Everybody.
Yeah, and then of course, like being in that space, like as a man, it just shut him down more because he just did it, and then because there wasn't like a container for him to do that in, or it just wasn't met in the way that feels supportive for him, he's going to shut down even further. And so there's just a big need for like a space for him to do that. And more and more, like if the space is there, I believe the men will take it, because deep down they're craving, like deep down, I know I was, and I know many men who I've worked with and I support in my men's group. It's like, we're all craving just being able to express what's true for us outside of the social norms that we're told are what's acceptable, and it like, especially for men to slide into anything that's not anger, we're taught that those are weak, that's weakness, but that's actually where true power comes from, is our ability to tap into what's real for us and then express and share that.
Yes. And you're right. Women don't know, like we ask for it and then we don't know what to do with it. And let me tell you from a woman's perspective, for my own personal experience, what that means and how that starts to be frank, turn me off. So what is the line? Because you're teaching men, God bless you. What is the line between, my man being vulnerable and expressing emotion and it becoming not masculine anymore? And it's I know this is controversial. Like, what's that line? Because I know we all have the feminine and the masculine, but I know for me, if there's too much, and probably on my side too, too much expectation of me holding space a lot, then I start to feel like the energy is off. Does that make sense?
I think I'd probably reframe it in terms of like not necessarily being less masculine or something, but just equality or a balance in the relationship, like this, him being able to hold space for your expression and then vice versa, and it works both directions. And I think that it's really important. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces to a relationship, is creating that balance in there, where when I'm having my experience, I know I can be held, by my partner, and she can hold space for me and invite me to go into that shame or sadness or whatever it is and hold me in that. And then, which also allows me to move through it, because I think another big thing is if we're not being seen as humans, if we have a deep emotional wound or something there and it's not seen, it's just going to keep coming up until somebody lets us be seen. And so if that space that you're holding, and it's true for men too, like men do it too with women. It's like, she's upset, let me just fix it. And it's like, well, that's not really what you want, is it? It's, you want just to be seen and heard and felt and witnessed in what you're in. And it's the same for men. Yes. Like I noticed that for me as well. So there's just a need for both parties to show up in both worlds. And this is what's really powerful about where we are now, is that we have the capacity to recognize that we are masculine and feminine, all of us. And we're not static in that. We're not stuck in one place. We can move the whole spectrum, 3 dimensions in the spectrum of masculine, feminine, and dynamics, and be wherever we need to be on that to support our lover, our beloved in that space.
And this is why, you guys, Sean and I have a show, because Sean is very articulate. And he'll take something like, you know, crazy that I say, and he'll just say it so beautifully and eloquently, and it makes sense, right?
Nice.
You feel so warm inside, like you just want to be like cradled by him. Like, like in your face kind of person. But anyway, cool. Like we're good. Yes, there's so much in that. You know, like, oh, you're so right. And I know that, you know, for myself and in helping and modeling for women, is this, you know, like, can we own who we are while also creating safety for our men, for these soulmates that we so want in our lives, and that we're both, you know, both people are violating that safety. Like that's what kept coming up for me when you were speaking, is, you know, being invited to express and then being rejected for it instead of, and that really truly violates the safety and the trust. And so men aren't going to try that again. Women aren't going to try that again. And you're so right. Like it's going to keep coming up until we're heard. So true. And maybe this is another topic for another time, but what was coming up for me is like, what if the person is stuck in their victimhood? Like, what if they're so stuck in their wound that it almost becomes like a psychic vampire kind of thing? And maybe that sounds like, as I'm saying it, I'm like, that's a big one. Like we need to
it's a biggie.
Somewhere else and like, just like, let me get that energy out of me right now. But yeah, this has been so juicy. I'm excited to go back and listen to this, and we hope that you're excited to watch this too. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we complete today?
I think what the last thing that comes up for me in this conversation, and the last comment that you made, that definitely is a big realm to climb into. Like, when is it no longer healthy? Like when have we crossed the threshold into like something more toxic and empirical, and it's not really serving anymore, and nor is the person holding space able to serve. So that's definitely a big topic. But aside from that, I think one thing I want to mention is it's all a practice, and we're humans being, and we're figuring it out. And sometimes it's a little clunky, and sometimes we make mistakes or we stumble a little bit within it. But the invitation is always to just keep showing up, keep showing back up, keep doing your work. If everybody's doing their work and then we're showing up to do work together, then we can trust each other in that process. And so just like anything else that I teach and offer, it's all a practice. And in support of that practice, what I'd like to offer is any man who is looking for more support, you're welcome to sign up for a free breakthrough session with me. And in that session, where it's all about figuring out exactly what your issues are, what you're wanting to create, and what's stopping you from creating that. And it's a free 1-hour session with me. So you can follow the link that'll be attached to this video. And I welcome you to come have a conversation with me. And I appreciate you all for being here.
Awesome. Of course, I just got an idea for the name of our show. And at some point we should do a poll for people, like,
I think that's a great idea.
Names.
Yeah.
The name that came to me was The Practice of Love Show.
Cool.
The Practice of Love Show.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about practice, and it's all about love, man.
It's all about love.
I love you, man.
Just doing God's work,
The practice of love. It's kind of frou-frou. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll dial it in.
Well, we got to get our fans to help us. Yeah, and thank you so much, Sean. It's always so fun to just go back and forth and see what comes out. And you guys, we don't really plan. Like, we have a topic in mind, but we don't script anything. It just comes out of us. And I think that's what makes it really fun for us, at least. And yeah, please, you're always welcome to connect with either of us. And I'm also going to put up a link to a free consultation with me as well for women out there who are so ready to stop being pleasers, like so exhausted of that, and to start to shift into the practice of pleasure, and what that could mean for you. So both of our links are going to be up, and we wish you all an amazing day and week and weekend and life, and we will see you soon. Send us lots of love and questions. Have an awesome day, you guys.